Saying no isn't easy for women. We don't want to hurt others' feelings. We want to be good, we want to be accepted, and do anything to keep the peace and the relationship. We want to care for others, even at the expense of our own well-being. And I don't have to tell you that this is not serving us, nor the other person. After working with hundreds of women in the last years from all over the world, struggling with saying no and setting boundaries that feel good is one of the most common themes that I've found. So no, you're definitely not alone in this. But why is it that saying no is so hard for us? And if we manage to say no, it comes with waves of guilt. How can we learn to say no, reclaim our voice, and own our truth and our boundaries while feeling good in our body and not guilty? Well, let me explain how.
So if all of this is resonating with you, I invite you to comment free workbook down below, and I will send you a free workbook around the wild woman. Because the wild woman is a part within every woman who is deeply connected to her no. She is connected to saying no without any guilt. She is unapologetic about who she is. She's wild, she's free, she's expressive. She's an extremely powerful part within ourselves. And many women unfortunately struggle with her. Like almost every woman that I'm working with struggles with the wild woman. And why is that? Because we grew up as little children, as little girls, and we were punished for being ourselves. We were punished for being wild, we were punished for being loud, for being expressive, all these things. And I will go deeper into detail with that. But for now, if you're interested in that, comment free workbook down below and I will send you the link. So why do so many women struggle with the wild woman? Why do so many women struggle with saying no and feeling guilt around saying no? And the answer to that is our childhood. And if you have watched any of my videos, you know that I'm very passionate about inner child healing, because that's where the key to our healing is. The foundation of healing is in our childhood. So if you grew up and your parents did not respect your boundaries, they didn't respect your no, you learned that saying no is not right. You learned that it's wrong, basically. And so when you spoke up, when you said no to something you didn't want to do, chances are high that they made you do it anyway. And I know this very well because that's how I grew up, right? Like I grew up in a family, in a household where saying no was just not a thing, you know? Like if you're told to do something, you better do it or you will face the consequences. And that mindset in how we grew up, being raised by our parents that meant well, but unfortunately traumatized us, is how this wound is created, that later in life it is really hard for us to say no. It is really hard for us to set boundaries. And when we do, we feel guilty because we think we shouldn't. Because we have internalized this shame from our childhood. This shame of if I say no, I'm gonna be punished because that is wrong to do. So this creates chronic people pleasers because again, we learned that it's not okay to say no in our childhood and it's not okay to have an opinion. And as children, we internalize all of this. We think that we are wrong. This creates shame within ourselves. We internalize that shame. And then later in adulthood, when we say no to anything, we feel guilt because that wound is activated in that moment. But how can we now say no without feeling the guilt, without feeling shit afterwards? How can we say no in our romantic relationships where it's usually the hardest? Because we also have been taught to be agreeable. We all heard the sentence, be nice, be quiet, be this, be that, like all these expectations of what we should be. And then we carry that into our romantic relationships and we try to be this version of ourselves that we tried to be in childhood, where we bring out these people-pleasing aspects to serve the other person so they in turn would love us. And we have suppressed the parts of ourselves that don't want to do these things because we have learned it's not safe for us to say no. It's not safe for us to have needs, to have wants, to have desires. And so later in adulthood, that's what we live out, especially in our romantic relationships. I mean, of course, also friendships, all kinds of relationships, right? But usually romantic relationships is where everything is most triggered. Like this is where all our shadows come out, and this is one that many women struggle with. They give themselves up for the sake of peace, for the sake of being loved by the other person. They are afraid that if I don't do this and that, they will not love me anymore. And so we create these versions of ourselves that are being liked, that are being accepted by our partner or whoever. And in the process of doing that, we are neglecting ourselves, and we push the shadow parts even further away from us, which makes them worse. And so I have some questions for your inner child. So maybe you want to sit down after you listen to this video and you want to journal about it. So set yourself a nice space, have your journal ready, light a candle, make yourself some tea, and then you will answer following questions. When was a moment in your childhood where you were not allowed to say no, or where your boundaries of saying no were crossed by either your caregivers, a teacher, friends, sibling, whoever? And don't search for an answer, just let it come up. Like, think about that question and then just wait for a memory. Maybe images pop up, maybe a scene memory comes to your mind right away. Maybe it takes a little bit, that's fine. And then write down the memory and write down how you felt. And then take a moment, take a deep breath, and connect to that feeling from that memory. And try to see, where do you feel it in your body? Is it in your chest? Is it like a tightness? Do you feel maybe in your belly? Is there maybe a nervousness? Is there any like fear? Does your heart beat faster? Like maybe in your head, maybe you get a headache. What is it that you feel on a physical level in your body? And then breathe into that space. Don't judge it, just be with it. And then let that emotion flow through your body and allow it to be expressed. And this can be through dancing, through stretching, through just doing any kind of movement that feels good to you in your moment. Just listen to your body. What does it want to do? Does it want to like stretch or yawn or whatever? Just be focused on the feeling and move it out of your body with movement. Use your voice. Maybe you want to moan. You want to maybe scream in a pillow if there's anger coming up because you were not allowed to express yourself in that way. So really work with the emotion, because we can do all the mindset shifts in the world if we don't go to the root cause of why we experience the things we experience in our life now, aka having trouble saying no, setting boundaries. We have to go to the root cause, because everything else is just a band-aid on top of the wound, and it's not going to help you long term. And this is a really deep wound, because this most likely hasn't just happened once to us as children, right? Like, this has probably happened through the whole course of our childhood, maybe even into teenagehood. And for me, there was also a lot of anger. When I went back into these memories and worked with them, there was so much anger because I felt so unheard. Like, I felt literally like I was talking to a wall and they just didn't hear me. They didn't want to hear me. And it's not their fault. Like, I always say this, like, it's not their fault. That's how they have been raised. That's their trauma playing out. So don't blame it on your parents and play the victim, because it's not the case. We're here because we're taking our power back and we're stepping out of victimhood and not being a victim of our circumstances or the way we grew up. But we can work with these things, right? That's why we're here. And so there was a lot of anger coming up around this, and it took me a long time to release a lot of that anger. And still today, like, I am still working with anger, because anger, surprise, surprise, is actually a very beautiful and powerful energy when we channel it into the right direction. Because we've been taught, especially as girls, that anger is not okay. We have been punished for anger and all these beautiful things. And anger is a really powerful emotion that we can use in good ways, but it also needs a regular outlet. So if anger comes up during your session, scream into a pillow. Don't hold back, because that's the worst that we can do, is to just keep it within ourselves, being afraid that someone else might hear us in the other room or whatever. Don't give a shit. Just let it out, because this is for the sake of your healing. And anyone who might hear you, they will get over it. Like, don't bother being heard when you are releasing emotions and energies. And that's actually also the wild woman, funny enough, because when we're disconnected from the wild woman, it is really hard for us to take up space. It's really hard for us to be loud, to express all these emotions that we have within us. And that's why I recommend the workbook. So comment a free workbook down below and I will send you the link. Because reconnecting to her will allow you to connect to that deep, primal sense of expression. And it's powerful. The wild woman is one of my favorite archetypes to work with. There are many to work with. But it's just, she's such a powerhouse, and when she's unleashed within ourselves, the sky's the limit, you know, like it's literally connecting to our truth, expressing our truth, expressing everything that's inside, you know, like everything that's been just bottled up for so long. And I see it in so many women, even just in the way many women move. Like it's very stiff and it's very restricted. Restricted is the best word. There's a lot of restriction, and I know restriction very well because majority of my life I felt very restricted, be it in the way that I talk, be it in my passion, you know, because I am quite an expressive person. And that's the next thing. Like there are the archetypes that we work with, like some people feel at home in certain archetypes, okay? So if it's hard for you to connect to the wild woman, it's okay. Maybe that means that she's not your go-to energy, and that's fine, because we all have a mix of very different energies and like different strengths that they come out. And so maybe that's just not your archetype, but it's still very much worth it to work with her, because she will again allow you to say no. She will allow you to be more free at the end of the day. Like she's the archetype of freedom, freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of sacred rage, of emotions, of all these things. So I really highly suggest to work with her, to download the workbook. There are journal prompts in there, there are practices in there that help you reconnect to her, and also see like where are you at with her? Like how hard is it for you to connect with her? How hard is it to set your boundaries and say no? So yeah, I hope this will be helpful on your journey. If you're interested, watch this video next, and I see you in the next one.